Hi, I'm Marty Cohn, and welcome to Brattleboro Cable Television's Meet the Candidates 2022. This series offers you an opportunity to hear from the folks running for elected office. Today, our guest is Lamont Barnett, who is Democratic candidate running for Assistant Judge in Windham County. Welcome, Lamont.
Thank you.
All right, so first question right off the bat.
Yeah.
What is an assistant, or I've read side judge? What is that?
So first, just let me thank BCTV for this opportunity to talk to the people. So assistant judge is a constitutional office. It's written in the Constitution of Vermont. There's two in each county. We have two roles, one judicial and one administrative. Our administrative functions are to oversee the county property, the courthouse, the sheriff's department, any buildings, to develop the county budget, to take care of the operation and maintenance of those buildings. The other role is judicial. We sit on the bench, usually with a presiding judge. And there's two assistant judges, so they sit on each side of the presiding judge, is where the name side judge comes from. And our jurisdiction is overseeing things like relief from abuse, parental rights and responsibilities, parent-child contact, stalking and sexual assault, a lot of civil cases like tenant-landlord issues, some foreclosure issues, credit card issues, things like that. Also, there's a few assistant judges throughout the state with additional training can actually move to be a presiding judge. And I am one of those. There's 4 of us in the state. I recently completed some pretty intensive training to sit in here, what's called the Judicial Bureau, but we mostly know it as traffic court.
Okay.
So, things like speeding tickets, no registration, also fish and game, some marijuana stuff, some alcohol stuff, but mostly just traffic tickets.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I hope that I don't get to be in front of you because I don't want any more tickets. But something that you said so the assistant judges or side judges sit on the side of a presiding judge. There are 2 of you?
Yes.
So in the when voters are checking off their boxes, they're going to be voting for 2.
Yes, and I think that's a common mistake. When I looked at the primary this year and took the number of ballots cast and the number of undervotes, it was clear to me that when people get in the voting booth, for some reason they're not realizing that they vote for 2 assistant judges, not 1.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad that we set that clear. All right, so now let's go to, so thank you for telling me and telling the audience what the role of the assistant or side judge is. Now tell us, why do you want to be the assistant or side judge?
Well, I've been an assistant judge for most of the last decade. And in that time, I've undergone a lot of training. The state and the county is always offering training to the judges. So I've always kind of had a thing for public service. I was born in Bellows Falls. After high school, I enlisted in the Navy, and it kind of, serving people kind of got in my blood. When I got out, after about, 6 or 7 years, I started serving on the local select board. Served on the select board for 15 years. Of that 15 years, I was the chair for 10. And I served on, BCA for 20 years, served on Chamber of Commerce for many, many years, was president. Also the downtown program, which a lot of Vermont communities have a downtown program. Also, I was one of the commissioners with Vermont Housing Finance Agency. So public service is in my blood. And as I said, I've been an assistant judge for 10 years and enjoy it and want to continue doing it. I think I provide a good service for the people of Windham County.
So in this particular year, there are 3 candidates for the seat for running for assistant or side judge. What sets you apart from the other candidates?
Well, first, let me say both of the other candidates are very bright, strong, independent women. However, I am the only candidate that has any experience in the job. And what we know is the previous assistant judge resigned, so we knew there was going to be at least one opening that needed to be filled. So, in going forward, the job of assistant judge, there's a lot of learning that goes with that. So if Windham County was to elect 2 new assistant judges, it would really place the county at a detriment, I believe. I mean, you need at least one candidate there that can help shepherd through the new assistant judge, because it takes a good year or two, and then even more if you go on and get all the training that's available to you. So, and a lot of that training really comes from the other assistant judge. I don't know how you do the job comes from them. So, to me, it's imperative that at least one of the positions are held by somebody of experience.
All right, and so as you said, you've been doing this for a decade now. If you're reelected, what would be your top 2 priorities?
Probably to continue. So there's some work that's got to be done in the courthouse. During the pandemic, we had to shut that courthouse down because of the HVAC system. It really doesn't have any. It was built in the 1700s. It's a beautiful old building, but it's not up to snuff when it comes to HVAC systems. The other is the county recently bought a building on Ferry Road with the purpose of housing our sheriff there, and that is something that I've been working with Sheriff Anderson very closely with, so we can get that building fully occupied.
All right. Well, let me pick up on that, because that building used to be the Vermont Yankee corporate headquarters. So
Yes.
I know that building.
Yeah.
And it's a great building.
Mm-hmm.
How will it benefit the county by having the sheriff located on that building on Old Ferry Road?
So I don't know if you're familiar with the Sheriff's Department in Newfane.
Lived there for 14 years.
Yeah, quaint building,
Right.
but really, what comes to mind is like Mayberry RFD, right? So to think that you can really run a modern law enforcement agency out of that tiny little building in Newfane just wasn't working. The county, the assistant judge's position was, well, that's all we're obligated to provide him. There's a statute that the county has to provide the sheriff adequate office space, among some other stuff. So for a long time, that's where we left it. And Sheriff Anderson, and actually before him, Sheriff Clark, kind of kept saying, this is a great building there, and it's a great price, and we could really make the sheriff's department a lot better if we were there. And finally, it was like last year at this time, we're going through the budget season, and we knew that the sheriff's department needed a lot of work in Newfane. And I finally kind of had an epiphany that just doesn't make any sense. Even if we put all this money into that building, you still have a substandard building for a modern law enforcement agency. Mm-hmm. So we decided to buy the building. It was $500,000, which for that building was really a remarkable deal. I think it's valued at like $2 million or something like that. So we bought it. Sheriff Anderson now has probably 90+% of his facility in there. There's a little bit of dispatching left in Newfane, but it'll be moved in there shortly. And then we have a lot of extra space that Sheriff Anderson is probably going to try to rent out to other agencies like DCF and those type of agencies, so that it will fill the building. So how this benefits the county? One, you get a modern building for the agency. Two, because we're required to provide operation and maintenance of the sheriff's department in Newfane, my agreement with Sheriff Anderson, he probably not going to like that I'm saying this, was, okay, if I get this building and you go in there, I'm going to give you a master lease, but you are going to become responsible for the operation and maintenance of this building. So it's not going to count. So if you look at what it costs us now, it could be close to $50,000 to operate Newfane. So if we can remove that expense from the county, within 10 years, we've pretty much paid for the building on Ferry Road, and then going forward from there, it's cost savings for the county. So that's why we made that decision.
Great. All right, so now something that you mentioned before, but I want to talk a minute about the Newfane Courthouse. Mm-hmm. Now, I got to tell you that I lived in Newfane for 14 years, and I just recently found episode 8 of season 4 of Route 66, filmed in 1963, which had the Newfane Courthouse in it. So, so it's been there for a while.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to the Newfane Courthouse?
Nothing. It's just going to go on being used like it's always been.
Are you going to fix it up? Are you going to?
Well, I mean, have you been there? I mean, it's a beautiful building.
Great.
Right? I mean, the only thing it's lacking is, as I said, modern HVAC, which is scheduled to be done probably in the spring. It's about a $700,000 project.
Great. Well, it's a piece of history. That's great.
Yeah. I've resisted some upgrades to the building. A lot of people have wanted me to put an elevator in there, and no. If somebody has to use that courthouse that needs an elevator, they can be scheduled in Brattleboro. So to do that to the courthouse, to me, is just wrong. I can't imagine cutting a hole and putting an elevator in that beautiful old historic building.
All right. So what are, if you're reelected, what are the key expenses and issues you want to address?
Well, the HVAC system in Newfane, the sheriff's department, the old one in Newfane, needs some significant work. The front porches are starting to cave in. The roof probably needs addressing. Shortly, we're going to be in conversation with the Windham County Historical Society, which most likely will be our next tenant in there. There are some restrictions for us for a tenant. It has to be in the public good. That's a covenants in the deed. Mm-hmm. So we feel the Historic Society fits that covenants, and look forward to a partnership with them to occupy that building. But the county does have to put some money into the building to get it up to snuff, if you will.
Okay. Now, you mentioned Sheriff Anderson. How do you work with the sheriff's department in building a budget? Is that because that's one of the things that you oversee?
So actually starting like a month ago, we meet monthly to develop this coming year's budget. I think our next meeting will be with Sheriff Anderson. And by the way, Sheriff Anderson and the county assistant judges, well, it's really just been me for some time, but have an excellent working relationship. We talk probably weekly. He has an advisory committee that I serve on, and we talk about policing issues. And he will be developing his budget. There are some statutory requirements that we have. We have to provide him with 2 people that do his accounting and secretarial work, if you will. I don't know if secretarial is the proper administrative
right.
Work, and so those are by statute that we have to provide him with. So we'll be going over that, and as I said, the goal with the new building is we're not going to have to provide him with heat, electricity, and telephone and all that stuff that we were in Newfane, because he now has the opportunity to take this new building and create revenue.
Wow. Okay. All right. Last question. What do you want voters to know about you?
Okay. Well, just briefly, I was born in Windham County in Bells Falls. After high school, I enlisted in the Navy, served one hitch there, and after that went to technical school, engineering, learning how to read blueprints and fabricate things for castings for a foundry. I was actually a journeyman pattern maker for many years. I then started serving on the select board in Rockingham, served on that board for 15 years, was chair for 10 through some very trying times. Bellows Falls was in really rough shape when I first started serving. I like to think that my service on that board really helped the town. I think if you go through Bellows Falls now, it's a nice little community. The reputation of being a grungy mill town is pretty much behind us. Most all our stores are full. So I did that. I also served on the Vermont Housing Finance Agency, which yearly lent out probably close to $60 million for affordable housing projects throughout the state, many here in Brattleboro, some in Bellows Falls, Springfield. Also was a member of the Chamber of Commerce, was president for many years, member of the Downtown Committee, was president for a number of years. So I've done a lot of community service, and as we were talking earlier, it's really in my blood. And I think, there's the way I've always looked at it is everybody has an obligation to do community service, but a lot of people just don't fulfill that obligation. So it leaves the people who are willing to do it a lot more work than they probably should have to do. If we all did a bit, it would be much easier. But unfortunately, a lot of people just live their day-to-day life and think all these projects and all these things just happen. And they don't. They happen because people work on them.
All righty. So Lamont Barnett, Democratic candidate for Windham County Assistant Judge. Thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you.
You can learn more by visiting Lamont's campaign website. The general election is Tuesday, November 8th. Remember, you can vote early in person. You can vote absentee by mail. You can vote absentee hand-delivered on Election Day. Whichever way works for you, please vote. Thanks for watching Meet the Candidates 2022. I'm Marty Cohn. Stay healthy.